And I watched the first 3 people go up there, and I loved this judge. I really did. He was the nicest guy in the whole world. He made every one of them feel like $1 million and reamed them really bad. He made them feel privileged to pay a $1,200 fine. He collected thousands of dollars just on the first 3 people, several $1,000s. And then he called my name, and I said, Your Honor, I am really learning a lot here. I'm really enjoying your demeanor in this show. Would you mind if I go last? He looks at me like, nobody's ever asked that before. Well, I guess. He throws my file on the bottom. And he calls everybody else. And I watched in less than 30 minutes him run 9 people through the court before it was my turn. And every single one of them paid a fine. And he was so good. He'd say, Your fine is $980. That's the fine I'm going to set for you today. And I know that might be a little hard for you to afford. And I normally only split it up for about 3 months. But for you, I can split it up 5 months. Can you afford $110 this month, today? And then $110 over the next 5 months? And then go, oh, that would be such a big help, Your Honor. Here, bring me some more. Felt good. And I watched those 9 people pay out about $15,000 total. In 30 minutes, that's how much that bank collected, and they had hardly any expenses in doing it. And then it's my turn. He calls my name. I grab my bag. I walk up, and there's this little table that everybody stopped at. I didn't see it. I walked right past and put my arm up on the judge's desk, leaned back a little bit and said, Hey, how you doing? I was close enough I could reach out and pat his little head. And I'm just all casual like, I said, man, I really enjoyed the show. This was great. You do such a fabulous job. But I've been teaching law for over 35 years, and I see all the mistakes that were made. He goes, how do you mean? And I started to educate. I got my book out. And I started to educate. And then I had a little piece of paper that I copied out of my book to hand to him. And it had 3 Texas court cases on it. Now, the first one was just a county case, Callis versus State. The second one was a Texas Criminal Court of Appeals case, Hassel versus State. And the third one was a Texas Supreme Court case called Brooks versus State. And I handed it to him. And I said, you might know these cases, right? He looks at them. Yeah, I think I'm familiar. I said, well, let me quote it for you. All 3 court cases say exactly the same thing. There is no such thing known to Texas law as a driver's license. No. And you can read the Texas Transportation Code. And you can confirm that for yourself. And then I said, if there's no such thing as a driver's license, what was I doing? I was just traveling, and I offered the police officer my passport. Is he here today for the charges against me? No. Oh, then you must have a prosecutor. Is he here today for the charges against me? And the judge says, no. I said, so you're it? I said, you're a magistrate, an administrative judge. You're supposed to be a referee. So there's no one here to bring a case against me? He said, well, no. I said, you want to go out to dinner? Because we're done. I added a whole bunch in between there because I wanted to educate him. But that's the whole point of the whole thing. There is not a darn thing he can do with you if you know the law. It's all about status. Who you are and your beliefs, you must prove. Can you prove it? You know what your status is. Can you prove it? It's real simple. If you've got an AOR in your hand that's been recorded by a county, it may put on the public record, and it's got a judgment and unrebutted affidavit with it, with a certified proof of service that it was delivered to the State Department. Because now it's a court of record. It's really easy to prove who you are. Understand, everything we do is lawful. If you don't think it is, or you don't believe it is, it's because you don't have enough knowledge or information yet. That's all that means. All the laws are on our side. We could go through this book over and over and over again. It's getting pretty thick. The reason it's getting thick is because I'm going to have it available for those that want to teach. It's going to cost something. It's just hard to make a decision in my mind when I turn it loose to you. Because I keep finding good stuff to add to it. And it's getting thicker and thicker and thicker. So,
Knowledge is power.
I want you to have all the tools in the toolbox you need. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. At some point we're going to cut it off and just have updates. So I'm going to have a little more fun. There's a lot of people that are fighting against this American State National movement right now. Some of them started out as American State Nationals, and then they read some stupid definition in the wrong place. And they took that as, this must be it, so that must be wrong. Believe me, it ain't wrong. Millions of people have proven it right. Okay? And we continue to prove it right. Don't listen to those people. They're not all there. They haven't studied long enough. They've been doing it maybe a year, maybe two. They don't know. They haven't read enough information to understand everything. This takes time to learn. Do your homework. Bobby's channel tells you to study and go slow. I tell you to be an American State National as fast as you can, and then study and go slow on applying it until you learn. But we've got to get those ARORs in as fast as possible, because those are the papers that are changing the world. And when some of these people are removing their ARORs because they're stupid, well, that just hurts our movement altogether. And we're trying to do the right thing and restore the republic, and we restore what's righteous and be kings. There are different classes of citizens. If they just read court cases like this, they wouldn't be doing what they do, but they don't want to pull them up and study it. Unless the defendant can prove he is not a citizen of the United States, the IRS has a right to inquire and determine a tax liability. Now, when a case is worded that way, you can read it into the positive, right? I'm going to read it again. Unless the defendant can prove he is not a citizen of the United States. That means if you show them your AOR, you've proved you're not a citizen of the United States, right? The IRS has a right to inquire and determine a tax liability. That means if you're a citizen, they have the right to acquire and determine a tax liability because you meet the definition of a taxpayer. That's U.S. versus Slater. It's a 1982 case. The case goes on to say there are then, under our Republican form of government, two classes of citizens. There's really more than that. They're just talking about U.S. citizens and non-resident aliens. But you can be a U.S. citizen or you can be a U.S. national. Hawaiians are born U.S. nationals until somebody check marks a box. If you're born in Guam, the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, a number of different places, you're U.S. nationals. If you're born in one of the 50 states, you're born an American state national until the day you're registered. So from April 20th, 1963 to May the 3rd, 1963, I was an American state national, and then my mom made me a U.S. citizen. And she signed that application as an informant. The legal definition of the word informant is someone who gives someone else up to another, thereby giving title and equity of her child to the state. Now, I know my mom. She wouldn't have given me away to the state if she would have known. If there was full and honest disclosure, she wouldn't have done it. But she didn't know. And neither did any of you moms. So you sign that application as an informant. These are the things, that application. And I want to tell you something. It isn't the licenses that get you in trouble. It's not the birth certificate that gets you in trouble. It's the birth certificate application that got you in trouble. It's the driver's license application, not the driver's license that got you in trouble. It's the Social Security application that got you in trouble, not the Social Security card. It's the marriage license application that got you in trouble, and boy, did it get you into a lot of trouble. I'm going to read a fun little court case I found years ago. I titled it, How to Beat Criminal Charges in Admiralty Courts. This is a court transcript. The judges previously set bail at $50,000. So I'm going to read you what the charges is. The judge says to the bailiff, next case, please. The bailiff stands up and calls People versus Smith. The charges are 2 counts of operating a house of ill repute. It's a Nevada case. That's all that needs to be said, okay? 3 counts of armed robbery, 2 counts of murder in the first degree, 5 counts of indecent exposure while dancing in the rain. I didn't know that was a law in Nevada, but it turns out it is. And 30 counts of bigamy. Yeah, those are some pretty serious charges. Murder in the first degree. Judge, he calls Mr. Smith. State your name. The accused, Mr. Smith, says, Your Honor, I will be glad to state my name if you can show me any presentments with my name on it for me to accept. Mr. Smith's been studying law. The judge, accept, what are you talking about? The accused, Mr. Smith. The court is looking for an acceptor as the principal has a primary obligation to pay or discharge any instrument presented for acceptance. See acceptance under 3-410 of the Uniform Commercial Code. The judge, Mr. Smith, you are accused of some very serious crimes. How do you plead? The accused, Mr. Smith, says, I will plead guilty to the facts, but not to the crimes. But first, I need to make sure there's an acceptance bond. The judge says, what do you want a bond for? The accused, Mr. Smith, says, whoever filed the complaint is making a claim on me And in the jurisdiction of admiralty, you cannot make a claim unless you bond your claim. The judge, well, what about that, Mr. Prosecutor? Mr. Prosecutor, I'm not sure about that. No, there's no bond. The accused, Mr. Smith, well, what about a bid bond? Have you at least got a bid bond? The judge says, pretending not to know, what's that?